Good afternoon and welcome to the Marketplace. Coming up in this edition, Ghana expected to have access to international capital market after deal with Eurobond holders. We shall be analyzing the feasibility of this with an economist. Also in this bulletin, Bank of Ghana discloses its sustainable banking principles has achieved 6.25% improvement as it insists more can be done.
Average compliance rate for banks as of the end of December 2023 is at 62.5%. And this represents a significant milestone.
Plus, government to roll out visa-free for more countries with electronic visa before end of this year.
Look at the final document that is going to cabinet. The president has promised that this year, under his watch, he will make sure that the e-visa is ready. And I believe him on his word, and we're taking it upon him.
We have details of these and many more lined up for you. Please stay. Thanks so much for your time. I am Pius Kojo Baka. And look now at our stories. Ghana could soon have access to the international capital market for fresh dollar borrowings. That's the view of some international investors and Eurobond holders after government reached a deal on restructuring of some $13.1 billion with external creditors. There is more in this report.
The country over the past 2 years has been prevented from going onto the international market to raise dollars from investors. Government was shut out of that market after it announced that it is working to restructure debt owed commercial creditors. However, based on new development that Ghana has now reached an agreement to start paying these commercial creditors, it appears that path has been reopened. The Eurobond holders have also maintained that government is now undertaking some measures that will protect investor funds. This will also go a long way to restore market confidence. But for some analysts, they worry the impact of government rushing onto the international market and its impact on the larger economy. As some have argued that the country is in this current state because of excessive borrowing on the international market through the issuance of Eurobond.
And we want to explore this angle further as we've been joined via Zoom by Associate Professor of Economics, Professor Patrick Isuming. Professor Isuming, thanks so much for joining us on the Marketplace. And this is the position of some international investors and, of course, Eurobond holders. Do you believe that we can now go to the capital market to borrow following the conclusion of the debt negotiations with external creditors, as they are saying?
Good evening, Pius. Good evening to viewers. Thanks for having me. I think that for this one, we should probably say thanks but no thanks to those who are encouraging and urging us to think about returning to the international capital market. I think, first of all, I think practically we are not even anywhere near close that, because you recall that when we signed the IMF program, it debarred us from taking on additional commercial debt until the program is finished. So any discussion about, formalizing and returning to the capital market is a little premature. And frankly, that's not what you should be thinking at all. We should be thinking about at this moment.
All right.
I think the fact that the program, we seem to be nearing the end of the debt restructuring, it's actually the beginning of the work. It's not the end of it. Our economy is still having serious difficulties that we need to seek to address. And at this moment, that should be our focus, not to be thinking at all about returning to the capital market.
And help me understand what could be the implications if indeed we should listen to the advice they are offering.
Well, I think it's not a simple matter of even listening to advice and going back. I think, don't forget that the credit rating agencies, have not upgraded us to anywhere near be able to return to the markets in the first place. And then, we have explicitly signed an agreement with the IMF that we don't plan to do that while we are in the program. And frankly, even if we were to return at this point, our credit worthiness is so low that we are going to pay a hefty premium to raise any funds. So, I'm very surprised that anybody would even want to bring this up. This is not something that we should even be contemplating at all, not at this point.
Again, you need fresh dollars to more or less service your debts. So indeed, if this market confidence we have seen as a result of the announcement of the end of the debt negotiations with external creditors, mustn't we leverage on that?
Not at all. I think, so the market confidence that we are seeing, what we have seen right now is transient. It's not something that's going to last. Perhaps the markets are reading that, they probably expected the negotiations to drag on, having seen what has happened to other places. And so to see that Ghana is able to complete this process in a relatively short time appears to be good news. And in some sense, perhaps the market expected that the country will probably not get as much relief as we probably turn out that we are getting. So all of those reflect a positive reaction, initial reaction. But this reaction is going to die down. The long-term, our long-term standing, our long-term rating is going to come down to our ability to implement the measures that we say we are going to implement, and our ability to transform our economy to a more sustainable basis. That puts us in a position to service the debt that we already have, never mind adding on. So I think that's how we should see it. It's not something to leverage on to go and take on more debt.
And what would your suggestion be in terms of, boosting the confidence you are looking at? You mentioned that this is the confidence you are saying is fleeting, so to speak. And how do we sustain that confidence going forward?
I think a lot of it comes with the measures that we have committed ourselves to implementing. Those measures, obviously, if we keep complying with what we have agreed with the IMF, the international market will feel that we are doing what is expected of us. But beyond that, we have to go beyond the macroeconomic stability that we may achieve with the IMF program to rebuild the economy. And in my view, change how we finance the economy away from the overdependence on foreign financing and look within in terms of generating a lot more from our natural resources and strengthening our institutional framework so that we're able to get more from our resources. And then also look to build a more sustainable economy that produces a lot of what you consume rather than overdependence on foreign imports for almost everything. So if you do that, then we will know that our economy will be in a stronger footing and we'll be in a much better position to borrow on more friendlier terms, if at all we need to.
And the concern for many is that really, how do government intend to service the matured interest on the debt that has been delayed, so to speak? Now, there's been calls for the need for government to consider, investing in productive sectors of the economy. But as we speak, we've not heard government come out on the clear modalities on as a measure to, sustain that concern.
Well, I think, first of all, I was quite shocked to see the initial reaction of the finance minister when he made the announcement in that town hall. He seemed to suggest that, or his reaction and excitement seemed to suggest that we have arrived at our destination and all our problems seem to be out of the way. That's not the case at all. I think it's now time for the government to knuckle down. First of all, we have too many ongoing projects that have been suspended. Part of that related to the external debt restructuring. We need to make sure that we complete them because the value and the cost of uncompleted projects to our economy. I think so we need to focus on completing what we have. But we need to also take a stock of what we are trying to do and how, the project that we're investing in, whether first we are getting value for the money that government is spending and whether they are going to be sustainable and whether they will generate sufficient growth to help the economy generate the cash flow to service our debt. I think we need to take stock. And we probably, after implementing the ones we have, we should not be rushing into signing new ones. We need to re-examine the efficiency of public expenditure, that when we spend money, we are getting the value for it, and that the programs that we are investing in are not fanciful projects, but they are projects that will generate sufficient cash flow, because ultimately we are going to have to pay our debt. So I think that's what we should be looking at. In the immediate term, it appears from the budget that the government had already been planning for some of the servicing, but you know, we need to see. We've made a lot of savings. I think the 2024 budget did not adequately capture some of the savings. So if you factor in all of those, we should be able to find enough to service what we have to service the rest of this year without having a significant impact on the currency. But we have to start thinking longer term in terms of, you know, what would be a more sustainable way of financing our development.
Thank you so much, Professor Patrick Esumeh, speaking to us on the marketplace. We appreciate your time. Now, the Bank of Ghana has disclosed that it has achieved 62.5% compliance with its sustainable banking principles launched for banks in November 2019. The principles ensured that banks observe strict regulations in the financial sector to help in sustaining economic growth. Speaking at the launch of the Environmental and Social Governance Certification Program by the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Elsie Adoawaji, said there is more room for improvement to achieve 100% compliance.
The support of the IFC and SECO rolled out a number of programs aimed at orienting, training, and building the capacity of bank staff at all levels, as well as engaging with boards of banks to help with the smooth implementation of the principles and sector guidance notes, and to help with reporting on compliance. Based on the bank's reporting to the Bank of Ghana, we observe a continuous improvement in compliance levels since implementation took effect in January 2020. And banking supervision tells me that the average compliance rate for banks as of the end of December 2023 is at 62.5%. And this represents a significant milestone, as BSD tells me. So, evidently, there's still ways to go, but we have come a long way from ground zero. And so it's good news. The Bank of Ghana continues to promote stronger governance in the banking sector through our regulatory and supervisory activities.
Now, the Supreme Court of Ghana has unanimously dismissed a case brought before it by a member of parliament for Boku Central, Mahama Yariga, over the operations of the Ghana Amalgamated Trust. Now, details in the following report for you.
In 2022, the Member of Parliament for Boku Central, Mahama Yariga, in an application sought to challenge the setup of the Ghana Amalgamated Trust, known as GATT, a vehicle set up by government to restructure and support some banks in the country. The Member of Parliament also raised issues about the money used to purchase shares in the trust by government. The application also sought to raise issues about the constitutionality of the Ghana Amalgamated Trust, but in a ruling by a 7-member panel of judges of the Supreme Court, chaired by Chief Justice, by a unanimous decision throughout the application on June 19, the panel agreed that the Ghana Amalgamated Trust is a public corporation validly created under the Constitution and set up as a commercial venture. The court also maintained that government subscription of shares in GATT does not fall within the category of a loan as defined in the Constitution.
To one of our headline stories, the government is working to roll out visa-free for more countries before the end of this year. It has also made significant progress on issuance of electronic visa in the coming months, I should say. Now, the move is part of efforts to improve tourist visit and dollar inflow into the economy. Akwesi Ajiman is the Chief Executive of the Ghana Tourism Authority.
It is a game changer. I mean, just as South Africa put out their numbers, for example, last year, 2023, the entire year we had about 4,300 South Africans come to Ghana. As of May ending this year, we already have 7,500 South Africans. So that tells you that the visa is a bottleneck. The visa is a hindrance. And so we are working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Interior. As of today, for example, there is a retreat that we have been invited to come to on Friday the 14th. And that retreat is to look at the final document that is going to cabinet. The president has promised that this year, under his watch, he will make sure that the e-visa is ready. And I believe him on his wedding. We're taking it upon him, and we are working together with other agencies to make it happen. And so, believe you me, there are countries like Namibia, South Africa has shown the way that if we reciprocate, we will get the numbers. We are getting the numbers, they are getting their numbers, everybody is happy. So we will do so with other countries, and I believe that by December, when we are doing our December in GH, a lot of these things would have been cleared off.
Would it be targeted at just certain countries, or it will be open for all or something?
No, the e-visa is open for all, but it's just that making it easier for people to, that is separate from the free visa.
Yeah, I'm talking about the free visa.
The free visa will be targeted. I mean, I don't think we can have a free visa for everybody. Those things are mostly reciprocal. And so for countries like Bahamas, we have a reciprocal free visa arrangement. So when you're coming here, you don't need a visa. When they are coming, they don't need a visa. In the Caribbean, I think we've done that with almost all the countries and the islands in the Caribbean. We're moving into the rest of Africa and some other countries to make sure that the numbers look good. For us, the US market is our number one, and so they are clamoring for the e-visa, and that is what we are trying to get out of the way as soon as possible.
Now, let's talk tech. Welcome to the segment. Now, Flutterwave, a leading African payment technology company, on Monday announced a strategic restructuring that includes laying off 24 employees, representing 3% of its workforce. Now, this decision comes as the company refocuses its resources on core business areas, particularly enterprise payments and the growing remittance segment through its stand-up. Let's interrogate this and how the evolution of enhanced technology is affecting jobs. Joining us is our regular pundit, Henry Kobler. Henry, thanks so much for joining me on the marketplace. Now, it appears the evolution of technology is taking a heavy toll on jobs. What is accounting for that?
Thank you very much. So generally, when you're looking at the evolution of technology, one of the job sets that really gets to be affected more generally is actually the tech industry itself. And so it's more surprising when you actually have a lot of people feeling scared that technology is sort of taking a lot of the jobs, because the very first point of call really is the tech jobs themselves. And so it becomes much more pointer when you see it being evident in a lot of the companies that are tech focused. I mean, Flutterwave has been one of the big companies, sort of the unicorns we've actually had seen in Africa, and which basically is looking at focusing some level on IPO and has done quite a lot of jobs. And so for them to be doing a lot of reshuffling with their C-suite positions should definitely tell you that, I mean, they're looking at a bigger picture. And definitely these are not technology taking jobs. These are more like strategic developments that come in within the tech sector and the tech-focused environment. And this really is not just going to affect just Flutterwave itself. I'm going to see quite a lot of that affecting businesses within the ecosystem, the tech ecosystem. And so generally, I would say that there's a move by most companies to really look at strategy and being able to position C-suite executives to be able to pick up positions that are going to refocus most of their energies, especially because tech is going to do quite a lot of things in the space. And again, it's going to be able to deploy more solutions. And so it's a very normal phenomenon, but we're going to have quite a lot of evolutions when it comes down to the job sector, down to the sectors that do not even interact with tech.
And what do you do if you find yourself in this tech space as a worker, because indeed AI has come on board and now evolution of technology? What must you do?
I mean, the very first thing is improving upon yourself. It's a very general thing. I'm sure that you've seen how people are jumping on YouTube and making content. It's the number one kind of thing people are jumping in, not because it was in the last 5 years it was a thing, but it was because we looked at the evolution of tech and people sort of advance themselves, get to learn and improve their skills and then position themselves to be able to pick up these opportunities. Like the internet itself provides a platform to be able to learn, advance your skills, and to be able to upgrade to fit any of these advancements that are sort of coming up. There are quite a number of people that are picking up on some of these AI tools to be able to improve on themselves and to be able to situate themselves in there. I mean, remote jobs are on the rampant these days, and so you definitely do not even need to be in corporate settings to be able to even deploy your skills out there. So the very first point I'll probably say is to basically help yourself out in being able to acquire skills in that regard. And again, also be doing quite a lot of research. I mean, it's more of being able to understand what are the trends, what are the availabilities of these trends. If you're in the banking sector, you'll probably be looking at cryptocurrency, blockchain technologies. I mean, it just has to be that you have to do a lot of research within your field and see what's the current trends and be able to start adapting to those ones. And
Henry, I'm wondering again, do you fear that in the coming days or in the coming months, we are likely to see more jobs, lose out because of these evolutions we are seeing?
I would say it's not out of fear. It's out of what's inevitable. It's generally what is going to happen. There are going to be quite a lot of jobs that you wouldn't have to work. I mean, trust me, in the coming months, I can tell you that the mobile applications for banks are going to even do more than the tellers that are sitting in the banks are doing. And so if you're a teller and you're sitting in the bank, you don't have to say, I fear. You probably want to just look at what is the next situated job that comes in around your skill and what the knowledge you've already acquired and how you can sort of improve on the knowledge. And so it's not really out of fear, it's more out of being able to upgrade yourself to be able to fit into the industries.
And finally, I want to take you to Kenya, where we saw the development in terms of the protests we are seeing there. And we understand that the authority has, gone ahead to, internet connectivity. And I want to know whether it makes sense, really.
Funny enough, I spoke to quite a lot of friends in Kenya, just checking on them and being sure that they are safe. Some of them sort of responded quite quicker than I expected, and some, basically getting the responses today. Video calls were not going through as I tested with them, but generally there's a report because there's always monitoring systems that are in the countries checking out on the internet, and there's been a communique from the government saying they've not interrupted with the internet positions. But again, the telecoms basically had also put in up a control position to that, saying that they are having fiber cable issues. And so it becomes contradictory in the communication. But generally, I think that it becomes much of a concern because whenever there are uprising or there are demonstrations or picketings by citizens in a particular country, especially in Africa, you relatively have the internet really go down. That's happened in Ethiopia, Guinea, Mauritius, Senegal, Sudan. Sudan is still experiencing that. Tanzania as well, coming through with it. And then Kenya also experiencing similar. And so it gives you some quite concern when you realize that democracy is being pushed to the ground and the voice of the citizenry is being cut short through their communication tool, which is the biggest in terms of communication now. And so that becomes much of a concern. Again, we sort of have to look at that and address that in terms of having conversations around that and being able to have our voices be heard through the internet. Generally, we're having elections even in Ghana, and so these communication pointers could happen even in Ghana, and so it's not too far away from us when government relatively has a huge control on the internet and decides when to put it off or on. But again, I feel that there's going to be more ways where citizens are going to always look at sharing their views, and that probably should be respected.
Henry Kobler, thanks so much. Our regular pundit here on Let's Talk Showbiz Tech, I should say. Thanks so much, Henry, for joining us. Now, finally, before we go, the Ghana Climate Innovation Center, in partnership with GIZ, has inducted 30 micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises into the first cohort of the Green Business Competition. The beneficiary businesses will be provided with comprehensive support, including advisory services, technical assistance for innovation development, climate policy advocacy, and market access. But the program will also provide financial grants to boost the sustainability efforts of these enterprises. Emmanuel Jivenu has more.
The green businesses are into sustainable agriculture, recycling and waste management, organic food products, renewable energy, eco-friendly packaging, sustainable fashion and textiles. These enterprises form the foundation of private economic activities in Ghana, accounting for 70% of GDP as well as 85% of the country's workforce. To tackle the high rate of unemployment in Ghana, the promotion of green jobs are crucial. Speaking at the induction ceremony in Accra, Executive Director of the Ghana Climate Innovation Center, Ruka Sanusi, urged the beneficiaries to make judicious use of the multiplicity of resources that will be provided them during the program.
The potential is there, and I think it would be a mistake just to focus on grant funding. You will meet a lot of industry experts. You get an opportunity to learn from some of the world's best universities, right? And I just say to you today, grab that opportunity.
Component manager for the support to private and financial sector at GIZ, Benjamin Atiga, believes the project is crucial to addressing the youth unemployment.
Our support to the private and financial sector aims to create a conducive environment for businesses to thrive in, to innovate, and to contribute to sustainable economic growth. And more, we also strive to support those businesses that have a positive impact on the environment.
Assistant Finance Director at the Ghana Climate Innovation Center, Stephen Annan, urged the enterprises to submit their necessary documentation on time to avoid delay in the disbursement of funds.
That as much as possible from here, even right after we depart from here, brainstorm the activity you want to do. Start speaking to the right people for the invoices so that when it gets to that period and luckily you are awarded, then we are not delaying.
On his part, the results-based monitoring and evaluation consultant tasked the businesses with being the reason for the next batch of businesses benefiting from the program.
And that's our part company here on the marketplace. I am Pius Kojobaka. For more stories, do log on to myjoyonline.com/business. More stories there, do visit there. See you at 5 p.m.